it ceases, it sort of makes the possibility of the human connection and the human experience of the arts is reduced down to this point system.
Yeah.
Right. And so what we lose in that is the superpower of being an artist. Right? Like, if you just look back to a couple of weeks ago in Italy, there was so much tragedy, and yet what was just as viral was the opera singer singing off their balconies.
Yeah.
Right? Or if you think of all of the various kinds of protests we've had in this country recently, my most favorite one was if you saw the video of was it a euphonium or a tuba player trolling the Nazis who were marching?
Yes.
Right? All it takes is one guy with an oompa instrument to take down a whole parade of Nazis, right? And we forget that we have that superpower as musicians, and we forget, we don't talk with one another about how to use that more efficiently. Like, I was thinking recently too of the cellist of Sarajevo, that story of after the bombings of the cellist who would just go out and play on rooftops and whatever. Like, we're in an incredibly profound time on the planet right now on so many levels. Right? And this pandemic right now is, I mean, we're just beginning how bad this is going to get. And so what, you and I as educator teachers are spending our time in tutorials to learn how to better use Zoom or Flipgrid or some other thing. We're buried in that, instead of, we could be having emergency meetings on how to respond as artists, right? Yeah. We're not doing that. We're focusing on how to not lose our institutional job, to take something that is not at all, that doesn't belong online, like an orchestral rehearsal. We're trying to figure out how to take that online, instead of trying to figure out how do we respond to this moment.
I love this. And I always have to apologize. I had to do this last week. I know you see my eyes darting around. I'm like trying to navigate the comments and other things. I'm worried because a few more people are telling me they're not getting sound. I clicked record just a few seconds ago, and I should have been doing that from the beginning, just in case people...
Are they not getting sound for both of us, or?
I think it might be both of us. So I'm just messing with my dials here. I don't think I changed anything from last week, so I'm going to see if I can get it to work. Let's see what I need to do maybe on my end. I'm seeing if I have some setting options. Let's see. Nope, that's not helping me. It's so, as I'm trying to get this figured out, and people might not even be able to hear us, but I really couldn't agree more. I think you have to take it, you might have seen that we're doing a virtual concert. We're calling it a Concert of Hope. We're going to perform some music by some living composers and just creating this virtual ensemble to be a part of the conversation. There's a lot of people that are doing things like this, and I definitely don't want to take away from what other people are doing. And I'm not begging for comparison, far from it. Like, everybody has different resources available to them. So I'm not doing a virtual ensemble in response to somebody else, and it's not a sacred project. I've been sharing resources and letting people know, hey, here's how I'm doing it, if you want to do it too. If anything, right now, I think we need more art, not less. So however people can engage, I think they need to engage. But I came to the decision to, like, okay, it's going to be taxing, and because I'm not as familiar with this technology as I could be. So I'm going to have to navigate this and learn how to do this. And it'll be a learning process for me and the musicians that are involved. But ultimately, I thought, I have a choice, right? I cannot make art or not do these things and retreat from this challenge, or I can overcome it. And that resilience, I think, is something that's also unique to artists, is that we are seldom completely stopped from doing what it is that we love and what we're called to do. And I'm grateful for that. I mean, I'm grateful for the institution that I'm at and the resources that they've offered me. In any other context, I don't know that I'd be able to do it, because I just wouldn't have those resources. But it's so important, you know, just, and especially when you look at all the things that happened in Italy, which were so beautiful, that people just went out onto their balcony. That's it. I mean, at the beginning, there were no microphones. They just went out to just be heard. And I think that's something that perhaps gets lost, especially in a Western model of entertainment, right? Entertainment with a big E, this thing that we consume and that we, you know, it becomes this commodity. That a part of being an artist and being a performer is sharing who you are and what you're going through. It's being heard and people recognizing that you exist. And I think that in and of itself is so powerful. It's not just us giving art to the world. It's also the world giving us that attention, and not in some selfish or conceited way. You know, it's literally just being recognized. That in a time, I've been putting this in a lot of my emails and communication with students. So I was like, you know, at a time where we're practicing social distancing, which is vital to diminishing the effect of this virus and everything that's going on, we can't distance ourselves intellectually or spiritually, for that matter. We have to stay connected, whatever that's going to look like, because the physical distance doesn't have to mean that we are no longer connected. And that is a beautiful part about technology and the arts. Like, we do have that opportunity. Is it going to be difficult? I mean, for some, myself included, yes, because it's not the way that we're used to doing it. But the fact that we don't give up, and that we still are looking for those opportunities and doing something rather than nothing, I think that's beautiful. And I think it's beautiful, as you pointed out, that the first people we saw doing that were artists, novice artists, not even professionals, people that just said, I'm not going to be in my house by myself. I'm going to my balcony and I'm screaming into the void, and I'm going to see who listens. And people listened and people responded. And that, I mean, that to me is just beautiful. It surpasses words that we can use to describe it. It's what art does.
Because I mean, even if it's verbal, it's nonverbal. I mean, even if it's poetry, it's not cerebral in the same way. And so it allows us to, like a heartfelt melody, even like you think of the music out of trying times in Russia, or it's like, I'm thinking of like the Rachmaninoff, some of the Rachmaninoff stuff, some of the Shostakovich stuff that's so poignant and came from such tragic political circumstances, right? And yet when you listen to it, it's beautiful and it connects to that same feeling in you, but that's something timeless. That's something different that is true for you in the moment. So we can make art, make music that touches the depth of our own feelings. And if it's not so much about our personal story, right? If it's sound or abstract or has enough to do with the human condition that it connects, it can be timeless, right? And so in a way that just hearing the news of the day can just be depressing. But if we can take that and move it into something else, there's an out of print recording that I did with the cellist Jen Mulhern and Jennifer Bernard, and on English horn. Oh, actually, you know what? It was a different one. It was with Jen and also some percussion, and Jason on percussion. But the first piece we were recording right after Katrina, and we had recording time scheduled, and it was right when it just seemed impossible that the government couldn't solve this situation and get people out of there. It was like the fourth or fifth day where it was so hard to believe that the situation was still what it was. And you just wanted to, being in Texas and being as close as I was, I just wanted to drive there and try to do something, right?
Yeah.
And I had hit a wall that day we were supposed to record, and I couldn't stop crying. And I thought, well, I'm going to go over there even though I can't stop crying. So I went over there, and we were supposed to play, and they're like, have some wine. And I was like, I don't want wine. I want it to be better, right? And I don't want to numb the pain. And I think it was, I don't remember which one it was said, just play what you feel. Yeah. And that's the opening track on that recording. And it's one of the most beautiful things. It's just such a gorgeous, like maybe 4-minute improvisation. And, you would never know listening to it that I was crying through the whole thing, right? But playing that made it possible to then spend the next 2 hours. It got me, they said, just play what you feel and get in, and it's beautiful. And it doesn't even sound, I mean, viola always sounds kind of melancholy, but I used to play with a harp guitarist, the guitar with the sympathetic strings. And we did a wedding duo for a while, and we thought our name should be Duo Melancholia. It was viola. It sounds always so medieval sounding. But yeah, I think if we can engage, allow whatever's going on and make art out of it.
Yes.
That these are the kind of situations that have created some of the greatest art that we have come out of artists who are trying to put to express the stuff that you can't even explain in words.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, kindred spirits. I could not agree more. And it's so important it's weird too, because I hesitate to say, at this time in this season that we should be making more art, because I think really we should just be making more art, just period. I don't think we should relegate it to this specific time frame of when things get really bad. That's when you need to be doing more, because I also don't want to take away from some people that are not in a place, whether it's, whatever the resources are, it's time or money or energy or, just personally, they're not able to do that right now. They're grieving, or they're really frustrated with their circumstances. If you're not making art right now, I don't think you are a part of the problem. But it's interesting that in and of itself, it's interesting that we seem to go through, these seasons, if you will, right? Like there are these times that suddenly there should be this huge surge of creativity and engagement in the arts world when the economy's doing good, right? Or when there's something bad happening, that artists should be responding to that. And it goes back to what we originally said. I don't know why there are so many people in so many ways that put expectations, very narrow expectations on artists and art, as opposed to really giving it this freedom that it deserves, that it thrives in, to say it can be anything that it needs to be to whomever is going to listen or look, and giving it that freedom to exist, as arguably as human beings need. We all need the ability to exist, and not to exist as, whatever labels we're going to put on it. For me, this cisgender white male that identifies as Christian and has can I just exist? Can that just happen? As you pointed out, can it just be a beautiful melody? Could it just be a beautiful note? Can you just provide that note in whatever context and let it exist? And it doesn't have to have a price tag, and it doesn't have to be a part of a larger piece. It just exists. I think even just appreciating that in the smallest of ways, when we're grieving as a community, an international community, when we're struggling together, I think people might listen a little harder and look a little harder, because we're hungry for engagement. But in that time, allowing us to be able to just share whoever we are, wherever we are in that moment, and be appreciative, and not say that it was better than this other recording, or it didn't sound like the CD that I had, or it wasn't as good as this performance, right? There's no judgment attached to it. It's just singing. It's just playing, just to be heard in a moment where everybody seems to be distancing themselves.
Something, I don't know what you're doing in there with your ensembles, but it's been interesting. I've got 3 elementary through high school orchestras that I'm working with right now. And we have one hour of rehearsal a week. Some of them take lessons, some of them don't. But we've got this semester to finish out. And I know some of the high schools and middle schools are just, and I don't know what about at the collegiate level, to what extent they've just given up on ensembles for the semester while we're all offline. I mean, online as opposed to in person. I know I picked up a new student last week where I'm friends with her mom, and cello has been a very exciting thing for her. And now they're not having orchestra because it's non-essential. And so I said, well, I don't normally teach cello because I usually, there's enough violinists and violas to work with that I have never really been like, oh, I teach cello too, right? But I said, I'll give her some cello lessons. And her mom said that's the happiest she's been since school let out, right? So how is that then non-essential? Right? So we decide that these certain things are non-essential, but yet what is that thing that it's offering that is the thing that makes so many other things possible? That's the thing that's, I think, so hard to quantify about the arts.
Yeah.
Is how deeply and profoundly essential it is, and yet it doesn't fit into the metrics of the other things that we're trying to evaluate. And so I've been looking at the challenge of figuring out how to take things that are fundamentally in person, connective, not social distanced, live, impermanent, right? That's the very nature of them, is that it's alive. It's really profound that we do a thing that the essence of it can't be replicated unless we're together.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? And so now, as you see, I'm in a couple of different big online groups where people are trying to figure out what to do with ensembles now that we can't meet in person.
Yeah.
And so once you go around the loop of the like virtual choir type thing with everybody in little boxes, and then you realize that that's actually done on the recording studio end, it's not really happening in the way that it looks as a product. What we do doesn't exist anymore. And that's deep, right? Yeah. And so I've been making my orchestra meet on a Zoom call with their instruments. And it kind of looks a little different every time, but I've just told them that it's important that we get together as an orchestra. So we've done everything from last week, the kids discovered that they could change the background on Zoom.
Yeah.
To all sorts of funky things. So we improvised. Everybody had to play to create music that went along with their neighbor box's background.
I love it.
And we all had fun and we laughed, and I thought that's essential right now.
Yeah.
That's what this is about. But I think that's something I've been thinking about a lot, from chamber music to choir to orchestra, how, unless you happen to be quarantining or staying at home with other people that you can play music with,
Yeah,
that thing that we do doesn't exist right now,
absolutely.
which is it's just so intense to realize how non 21st century our art form is,
Yeah.
and not replaceable by anything,
Yeah.
which is both sad because it means, you know, I love playing music with you and we can't do it in real time right now. But it's also profound to see the value of what we do, or the irreplaceability. Is that a word?
Yes. No, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. I think there is no, I swear this wasn't planned for anybody that can hear us right now. That is the absolute perfect place to stop. I want to honor your time because we've been on for about an hour. I'm sorry to everyone that was having audio issues. I kept darting back and forth trying to see if there's some things that I can fix. But this was a good learning experience because as I navigate this technology, I know that I can record my Zoom sessions. And so what I'll plan on doing is recording these sessions in the future, and then I'll upload it to my YouTube channel so that it's available. And then I'll also, that way if there are some audio issues, at least on one end, we'll have it preserved. And then hopefully I can do that for this. I only got about half of our talk together, but whatever I do have, I'll upload that on YouTube and make sure that there's audio in case it wasn't working for some of you the whole time. Stephanie, I can never thank you enough for just being an incredible individual in the world, spreading positivity and making music and engaging people in these beautiful opportunities that you create. I'm just so grateful to know you and have you in my life. I hope that all of you that had the opportunity to hear it and everyone that came in, I see friends Kathy and Stephanie Wong, who's a student at SPU. A lot of my music ed majors chimed in. Sean Mann, another music educator from Texas. Cheryl Parrish from Texas State University. Renee Gonzalez, all of you guys. Shane Rowe, it's great to see you guys. Everyone that tuned in today, I'm so grateful that you had some curiosity and wanted to click on it. I'm going to post this to the Falcon Feathers page and it'll live in my timeline as well. If the audio can get fixed, I'm going to navigate that and upload it as a YouTube video. I'll share it also just to make sure that you capture some of what Stephanie shared with us today in this conversation, because I think it's so valuable. And it is important to know that what we do as educators and artists is irreplaceable. And right now it's missing in the world. And it's a sobering thought. We're still doing what we can. We're still engaged. I love your ideas and what you're doing with your students. And I hope other people will take that as either an inspiration or just blatantly steal the idea and do it and be creative and amazing with your own students and colleagues and friends and family. But if anything, do it. Make art. Let's continue to be creative and share beauty in the world without pretense or judgment or specifications or, you know, price tags. Like, let's just continue to be creative human beings and engage others. Stephanie, thank you so much. This will definitely not be the last time. I want to do this again, if not.
Thank you so much for having me. It is such a joy to see your face. I just adore you, and I'm so thrilled that you're out there teaching at the collegiate level, and I know your students are so lucky to have you, and that institution is so lucky to have you, and the whole state is. I'm just thrilled that you're out there, and I can't wait to come visit.
Yes. Well, I'm going to end this session, but like I said, to anybody that is listening, I'll try to work on the audio on my end and get at least half of this talk up so that you guys can hear it. I want people to benefit from it. Incredible words of wisdom and experience we're getting from Stephanie. I love you. Thank you so much for being a part of this. We will definitely do it again. Virtual hugs.
Bye.
Come on.